Very clear, Jim. Don't think anyone would ever do anything differently. But with a hand like aces, I would probably consider slow playing, but not with ace king. Interesting board. I think very strong board for us. I think we'll just high frequency small c bet. But also a board where in position could have a ton of strong hands as well. I would expect in these positions and a little deeper, I'd expect him to have full frequency of queens and tens. Pathetic Losing Reg says, exclamation point BRPC coaching. Yeah, I don't know the details of how the Twitch chat works. I don't know if something's supposed to pop up when you do those, but if you have any questions about BRPC, I'm happy to answer them as best I can. Oh, one thing I should let you guys know is there's not going to be a GTO Wizard giveaway today. Usually at the end of streams, we give away 3 free months, but Paula, who usually runs those, is traveling today. So unfortunately, no giveaway. Hopefully you guys will stay with me nonetheless. 8-6 suited, just a little too weak. It's kind of a harsh name. I'm sure you're not that bad. One thing I will say about, I don't know what stakes you play, but we were talking earlier about the micro stakes division. So BRPC did add a micro stakes division. It's got to be like 6 months ago, maybe. I was the coach of the English tier of that for a while, but have recently moved on. But I actually think I like the new setup they've done, which is to have, it's a very odd size, I'm just going to call, which is to have 3 coaches who basically all coach. They take turns coaching the English division and take turns coaching the Portuguese division. My Portuguese is somewhat suspect, by which I mean I know none. But yeah, I like that setup. I think, yes, it's nice to have some consistency with the coaching. You get to know, the coach gets to know the players well. But I think it goes the other way as well, where I think it's nice to just get different perspectives. And so, yeah, I know all 3 of the guys who are coaching the micro team. All 3 are very good players. And so, yeah, if you are a 50 NL player or lower, okay. If you are a 50 NL player or lower and are looking to improve, I do think BRPC Micro is a good place to go. I can speak for a couple of the students I had in my English division who have already moved up to, so we start at tier 3 in the main team, and 2 of the guys moved up very quickly from micro to tier 3 and now up to tier 2 and are shot taking some 100 no limit. So yes, again, highly recommended. I will say for myself too, when I joined BRPC, so I've been playing poker for an extremely long time, but took a break to do some high school teaching, which I hated, and then came back to poker and was just kind of playing some 50 NL for fun, and kind of had to make the decision of, do I want to take this seriously or not? And it is a big decision, to apply for a CFP. You are giving up a significant portion of your future profits. But I can pretty confidently say that I would not be playing 200 and 500 if I was still doing what I had been doing before joining BRPC. So yes, I would. If you are on the fence about it, I would definitely recommend going for it. Whoops, what happened here? Oh, my Georgian has died. Hold on. Whenever you have to go back to the old ways, it's amazing. How did anyone play on Bodog before software to help them? Oh god, is it not going to work? Come on, come on. Okay, we're back on one table. Hopefully we're back here soon. I think I did one stream all in dollars when Trojan wasn't working, and man, I don't want to have to do that again. Here versus pot, well, it gets even easier. But if this table doesn't come back, I'm going. Yeah. Okay, good. There it goes. Okay, what was I gonna say? So you were playing 100 no limit, thinking about applying for a CFP, but debating between coaching and CFP. Yeah, I think that's a common debate. I did not. I think I've had one coaching session in my life. Very easy fold to 4-bet. So I can't really speak to coaching. I will say that one of the things that I think has been very helpful for me with joining BRPC is just having the community, and I was very much just doing everything on my own, and for me, anyways, that resulted in not really working very very hard. From talking to other poker players, I gather I'm not alone in that. Whereas when you have that routine, you have the volume requirements you have to hit. You have the other guys around you that you have classes with. You get to know. You get study groups outside of those classes. I found all that extremely helpful. BRPC in particular too. They have some two sports psychologists that the team works with. I would bet this a lot, but not 84. And that I found extremely useful. I was very skeptical of that kind of thing. All of that mental game stuff I was very skeptical of, but it's been extremely helpful. I'm a much more organized person than I was before that. And so yeah, just another thing to think about. But it is a big decision, not something you should take lightly. I think versus this size, I'm just going to fold. Versus some small 4-bets, I would continue. But that one, we're getting up towards 2.5x. I think we can mostly just fold. It's fine. You were going to join Bluff the Spot last year, but they wanted 1.2 million hand contract, but I was playing 25 no limit back then. Yeah, I mean, that's a big commitment for sure. And I mean, it sounds like if you've gone from 25 to 100 in less than a year, it sounds like you're making good progress. So yeah, it's kind of up to you. I will say my progress sped up significantly when I joined, but everyone's going to be different. Here I'm mostly going to check raise. Yeah. And here, I think we will bet a lot with our range, but not with our hand. Fine result here. So 1.2 million hands, what's that? That's like 50K hands for 2 years, I guess. I think this hand is right on the edge, and I rolled 89, so I'm going to check. I think pocket queens is a pretty clear value bet. Even ace jack, I would be a little more inclined to value bet. Queen jack seems close. We will mark that one too. Yeah, so 2 years of 50K hands a month is a big commitment. So you have to decide, you have to balance yes, you are going to end up paying a bunch of money, but the thing I liked about the CFP contract is you pay more the better you did. So, if you happen to become a winning 5-10 or 10-20 player, you will end up paying a ton for your CFP, but you will also overall be quite happy with the result. And so yeah, I do think that's one nice thing about it. And then, at the end of the contract, you are also a winning 10-20 player or whatever far you make it, which is a pretty good result as well. Here, I think we can do whatever versus the limp caller. I'm going to mostly bet, and I'm going to size up just a bit on this flop. I think anything is fine. I wouldn't go huge, but I think anything else is okay. I think versus the limp calling type, I would have been fine with half pot, and I think check is fine too because you will face a lot of random stabs. My hand will mix some check raises and some check calls. That's a funny hand. Seems like a very clear raise on the river, and I think my hand is just a very clear bluff. It's just sizing. I think we have a decent number of queens and some flushes, and I think the king 10 fits well into that range. It has some blockers to the queen, and it has a heart. But I would have at least two sizes there, probably three, honestly. NJSDK says BRPC includes staking too. Yes, I believe all players are staked. It's just how they like to do things. For me, the staking was not something I cared about, but it was something they wanted to include, so that was fine. But yes, it is staking and coaching for profits. Seen a few of these 5x raises. I mean, I'm going to call with pocket threes, but I assume you have to play quite tight against this size. I'll just fold to a bet on mono unless it's absurdly small. But once again, I think the small bet is going to be extremely effective here in just letting us realize our equity. We can be very confident we are not playing against a particularly strong player. And then river is just a question of if we would rather block or check. I think I slightly prefer check, but I don't feel strongly about it. Villain had ace of diamonds 5, which if that's not going to bluff, I'm not sure what is. But somewhat useful to know that there is a guy in the pool who is 5xing with hands as weak as ace 5 off under the gun. It's only a 26-person pool. So it's rare that you can get significant reads at zone, but I think this is one situation where there are so few people that use 5x that I will be inclined to treat any 5xer as that guy. So this is a board I like to use pot on as my c-bet, and this hand will basically never bet. Versus half pot on the turn, I think it's close, but I will continue this time. Interesting river. I don't think we need to bluff our hand, though it is somewhat tempting. But I think instead we just check and occasionally win. I don't think we have a ton of showdown value. I think we'll run into a lot of jack x and 9x, but it's close. Maybe you can turn it into a bluff there. I do think we still have, we'll still have some king highs. We don't pure bet any of the gut shots, and we'll pure continue them on the turn. So I think we have enough other hands to bluff. If you want to just, go exploitively bluffing, but I think you're going to run into a decent number of jacks, which, may or may not call the river. I don't think it's clear how they will play. And then I also think on the river you will run into some amount of king, queen, king 10, queen 10, etc. Miss straight draws that are just giving up because I'm perceived to have a lot of aces there. Interesting spot if this guy does anything. And I think can do a little bit of check raising, but I would mostly call. I rolled 77, so. Pure continue. I don't think I would check raise queen jack. I would check raise some queens, but I think you want a slightly stronger one. And then do I want to bluff this hand? I think we actually have a reasonable amount of showdown value here, and so I'm going to check. I don't think we have a ton of fold equity versus exactly this, which is the other type of hand I expect to see a lot. That is a funny run out. I would be quite inclined. So I think when he bets flop, I think you will see, from what I've seen on Bodog, you will see two things. One is you will see these protection-y hands, and he bet fairly large on the flop, something like 75. So I think you'll see a decent number of these protection-y hands, and then you will also see some amount of just completely random air. And against that random air, my ace-9 actually fares pretty well. So yeah, I would be more inclined to bluff my, my king highs, my queen highs, that kind of thing. This hand should raise a little bit, but not 84. And here, mostly checking. Mostly betting on the turn, and I think we can use a small size. And pure continue on the turn. A little bit of raise, but mostly calling. Interesting spot. I don't think we get to value bet. I would value bet a lot of rivers, but I don't think we get to value bet this one. And here I think just a fairly clear check. Again, we're going to bluff more of our king-jack type hands than these ones. Ace two of spades is getting a little creative on the turn. Pot size bet. One thing I will say is I used to do a lot more c-betting, like when in doubt c-bet, which is still a fine strategy. There's lots of boards, and you'll see me do it still on plenty of boards against weaker opponents. But I do think there's something to be said for playing the check back line well and balanced. You just see a lot of random button clicking from people, regs included, who are just, blindly attacking the checkbacks. So it's not like I want to start checking back everything or like check back all my value or anything crazy like that. But I do think, it's tempting to say, oh, people fold too much versus small c-bet, so I'm going to small c-bet all the time. But that can be true, but still wrong. It can be true that they fold too much to small c-bet, but it can at the same time be true that they stab way too much against check back. And so just because they fold a little too much doesn't make auto c-betting the highest EV strategy. Ace-9 I still think is going to be a pure call, though we will start to fold some of our weaker nines and some of our 6x without backup. Spot where I honestly don't expect people to bluff a ton on the river 10. Don't think we can value bet, especially versus the timeout check. Can easily be like a jacks, queens, kings that's thinking about it. So yeah, I think we just check back and value bet a 10. Doing a lot of checking and winning at the moment. This plays fine. I mean, I would be inclined to go for it with that hand. I still am going to have a lot of 9x, 6x, also just some better straight draws. I can have queen jack, king queen, king jack. All of those are going to continue. Queen jack pure on the turn, and king queen and king jack with at least some reasonable frequency on the turn. So I would be a little inclined to bluff this hand. Also have some decent blockers to some 10x, but I don't think it's mandatory. Easy to overdo it, honestly, on that board. And I think facing a bet, my hand falls into the pure bluff catcher category, but it's a pretty good one, since aces will very rarely be in the bet line as a bluff. Mostly checking back on 74, definitely checking back. Nice to have a few aces in our check back range. A board where heads up, I would use a huge size. Three-way, I'm a little less confident. I still think sizing up makes a fair bit of sense. Hoping to face a check on the river. And once again, we're going to execute the check back and hope to win strategy. It's worked very well for us so far. I do think you want to value bet an ace with a kicker there, but it seems optimistic to value bet an ace with no kicker. You are basically hoping to get called, I guess, like a queen 10, jack 10, maybe? very clear call here versus this size. Versus some of the bigger sizes, you do start to fold some of these hands, especially if you pure open them. But versus that size, never fold, obviously. I don't hate either play. On 84, we'll just call. Again, I don't hate either play. But on 56, we will call. That's a weird one. I think I'm going to click call. It's an extremely weird line. I would expect overpairs to generally go for more. So we are going to click call. Fairly easy to find some bluffs too. That's a very weird bluff, but weird spot because obviously we beat no value hands. But I think most of the value hands are going to take a different line there. I think his hand choice is very bad, but I don't really understand his sides on the river. I mean, honestly, if I saw a bluff, like I was expecting more of the like queen jack kind of thing, where he's just trying to get me to fold my missed draws. Ace jack beats most of those missed draws, though. Not all, but many. Whoops. He also blocks all of the possible draws. So probably not my favorite bluff ever, but. Yeah, I think his flop, I would like a bigger size on that board. Turn, I think his hand is a perfectly reasonable barrel, probably quite a good barrel with the ace of clubs. And then river, I think his hand will just be a give up. Yeah. And my hand, I mean, obviously when you have that much equity, you can kind of do whatever you want. I think raising flop would have been fine. I think jamming turn would have been okay as well. But yeah, on those rolls, I like to call. Mostly checking back here, but I will occasionally bet. Again, almost pure checking back, but I don't think betting is the worst. And now pure checking back. I think it's hard to get called by an ace high hand. Not impossible. If he has a 3 or a hand like that will call fairly often, but I think we run into a decent amount of 10s. Some better kings. This one's just going to be near pure check. Whoops. Pretty clear call on the turn. Although actually, I think in solver it's actually not even that clear. I mean, this can just be the name of this video is check and win, but there's no reason to value bet. I expect to win a lot, and we are on a roll with the check back, showdown value, and win. I think, so again, like his hand is a very high equity hand. You can kind of do whatever you want with it on the turn. For me, it feels more like a hand that wants to go very big or check though. When you bet, you kind of take away some of the showdown value, because when I continue, I'm mostly going to have hands better than an 8. So I think if you bet, you want to start betting a size where you actually have some fold equity versus some of those better hands. And then, you're kind of using it as a blocker to some of my improves. Or you can just check and try to check it down, because King 8 has very good showdown value in the check all the way down line. Okay, interesting board. Obviously super connected. I think we have a slight advantage in the strong hand, so I still think we see bet quite a bit here. Even though it's tempting on these scary boards to want to not see bet a lot. But yeah, in a fairly tight range spot, we have. Or not fairly tight, but not the small blind, right? We don't have 40% of hands. or 45% of hands. We have all of the very strong hands there too, and a pretty big advantage in some of them, where he will be 3-betting some of them that we have pure. And we also have a lot of hands like ace king and ace queen that he will not have, that have some decent equity. On 17, I'll bet this hand and pure call here. Very good hand to keep barreling. Don't think we get to use huge sizes. I've been experimenting with using more half pot, so let's go with that. And on 97, we will check back the 9s. That's a pretty turn. And now I think we mostly want to go big, and so I will do that with this hand. And very clear raise here. Shocked he didn't 3-bet pre, but once you don't 3-bet pre, very standard, well played. Yeah, on the river for him, his hand is better than a bluff catcher. If I get there with ace-9 that way, I think I overbet that as well. So very easy call. High frequency 3-bet. The queen 8, my bluff, I mean, it can't be too bad. Yeah, no, I think he has enough. I think he has enough other hands. And here, c-betting close to range, I like having these spades. Oh, and this guy is particularly short. So yeah, I do just like c-betting range there.